No moral victories needed this week because the Broncos got an actual victory. Hello, everyone. Welcome inside upon further review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. A Victory Monday edition as the Broncos beat the Cardinals 24-15 and improved to 4-10 on the season. Alongside my partner, Brandon Marshall, I'm Michael Spencer. Glad to have you with us today. It's rare that we get to do a Victory Monday edition of the podcast, but certainly nice to do it. First time that the Broncos have won a game on U.S. soil since September 25th.
It's funny because you said Broncos improved to 4-10.
Isn't that bad?
You know, that's bad. That's when I heard you say that, I was like, oh my God, that sounds terrible. But nonetheless, a win is a win, right?
A win is a win, and you will take it, especially when you only have 4 of them on the season. Let's jump into the show the way that we always do with What's on Marshall's Mind. What's on Marshall's Mind brought to you by Breckenridge Distillery, the official bourbon of the Denver Broncos. Shop Colorado retailers for their limited edition Broncos Bourbon Blends. B. Marsh, what you got?
Man, I'm curious. You know, the last couple of weeks, we've been seeing something different out of Jerry Jeudy. Yeah. So, is he wide receiver 1 now?
Well,
I mean, obviously we know that he has the route running ability to become that, but is he that at this point?
Jerry Jeudy is flourishing because there is no Courtland Sutton right now.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think that there is something to that. I think that obviously Courtland's a really good player, but Jerry has taken on the onus of being that wide receiver 1 and welcoming in his new position. And when you look at his numbers over the last 2 weeks, obviously he had 8 receptions for 3 touchdowns against the Chiefs in that loss a week ago. And then yesterday against Arizona, 7 receptions for 76 yards. I think there's an argument to be made that maybe he's better suited for this role than the role that he was playing just a couple weeks ago.
So my thing is, like, you know, what can you do about that? Because you have Courtland under contract, you have Tim Patrick under contract, and so it's like, you know, you have 3 good receivers. You know, I mean, it seems like he's better as a lone wolf. Yeah. You know what I mean, so to speak. But without, like you said, without Courtland and without Tim, it seems like he's taking it on. He's taking the ownership of that spot. But you know, we got to make it all work together when everybody's there, because it's with the more weapons you have, the tougher it is for defenses to defend you. So, you know, I mean, we'll see what happens. Right now, he looks really good though.
The question's going to be moving forward: Can they make it all work? Right. Is there enough to go around? How much of that is on the quarterback?
Yeah.
Because we you know, I mean, obviously we haven't seen Tim Patrick this year because he got hurt in the preseason and training camp, but I think a lot of that is on Russ to make sure that everybody and the scheme to make sure that guys are in great positions and that guys are getting the ball.
Right, and you know, a lot of times, you know, people were saying early on in the season, actually most of the season, you know, Russell Wilson was just looking Courtland Sutton.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, there was no doubt about it.
Yeah,
he was, where's 14? I don't care if he's covered. I'm throwing right to him.
Absolutely, almost like when he had DK Metcalf in Seattle. So kind of, you know, trying to do that same thing, because Courtland is a similar body type as DK. But, you know, we got to expand the field. Yeah. You know, he got to be able to see everybody, because we have a lot of weapons, right? We have a lot to go around. You know, the tight ends, you know, Dolce is really good right now. You know, we have weapons. So, I mean, moving forward, I could see this offense being really potent. It's just the scheme and how the quarterback's going to play.
It's been nice to see Jerry Jeudy kind of flourish. I know Broncos Country's been wondering, like, where has that been for the first couple years of his career? The other thing that Broncos Country's wondering after yesterday is, where's this running game been? I mean, they were impressive yesterday. Latavius Murray, obviously the headliner, finishing with 130 yards. But, Brandon, they ran the football very, very well yesterday, and I think that's a big reason why they ended up winning the game. And I'll pull up the final numbers here. I mean, they ended up having 324 yards of offense, 168 rushing yards. Hey, that's like a recipe for success in the NFL. And the Cardinals, their defense isn't great, but they had the 8th best rushing defense coming into yesterday's game.
Oh, yeah, they ran all over Vance Joseph's defense. You know, and honestly, you know, if you can control the clock, control the game, you know, I mean, with the ground game, right, you can win the ball game. It's easier, right? You take more, you know, time off your defense. They can chill on the sideline. You know, if the offense is sustaining drives and they can run the football. Latavius had over 5 yards to carry, you know, in this game. First of all, he was fantastic, and he did well for me in my fantasy. You know, I'm in the playoffs, and I'm moving on to the next round partly because of Latavius, man. So, you know, I know it's a makeshift offensive line. The offensive line has been the issue, and that's something we have to address in the offseason if we want to take it to the next level. but they looked solid yesterday.
Well, and I thought Clint Kubiak did a really good job play calling because he knew that he had a makeshift offensive line. Because you've got Wattenberg in there, you got Tom Compton in there. The best thing to do to help those guys out is run the football, right? And so I think that was hats off to Kubiak for finally deciding to do that and sticking with it even when they were behind 9-3, which at the time felt like an insurmountable lead based on what we have seen. Now, Brandon, there's a school of thought that, hey, look, it's just the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? Like it's a fourth win. You're out of the playoffs. The Cardinals were on their third string quarterback. I tend to believe you still obviously take the win.
Yeah.
And that there's something to be gained from that because this is a franchise that has been mired in losing season after losing season after losing season, 6 straight now, 7 without the playoffs. What happens if this team makes a run toward the end of the season here? They've got 3 games left at LA, at Kansas City, and then against the Chargers at home. What happens if this team makes a run and maybe wins out and finishes 7-10?
Then Nathaniel Hackett keeps his job.
Yeah, doesn't he?
If they make a run, I think Nathaniel Hackett keeps his job, man. I think, because it's, you build on the momentum. You feel like, okay, maybe he turned it around, right? Almost like a Josh McDaniels thing because Josh McDaniels in Vegas looked terrible, but the Raiders have started to win as of late. So, not saying he's going to get fired anyway, but now it's like, okay, now we have more hope towards the 2023 season. If the Broncos can win out, I think they get more hope. I think you decide to keep Nathaniel. And, obviously the defense is what it is. It's been stellar all season. But the question mark has been offense and Nathaniel Hackett and his competency, actually, as a head coach.
Right.
To be honest with you, that's been the headline. So if we win out, I think you keep him, man. Unfortunately, even though I want somebody else, but, hey, I'm not mad at results. And if we get the results, then we got to keep them.
Isn't it crazy that we're having this conversation at 4-10? Because, if you had asked a couple weeks ago, I would have said there's no way.
No way.
I don't think they're going to win out.
No way.
Because, I think they go to LA and beat the Rams, especially if Russ is coming back. I think that you go to Kansas City. They've already clinched a playoff spot. They're probably playing for the number 1 seed and probably will be at that point. I don't think you beat KC. And I don't know that you beat the Chargers either, but there's still a shot here.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
But because the Broncos have been competitive all year.
Yeah, they really have.
No matter who they played, they've been in games, right? They just took the Chiefs down to the wire, last week. So I think they can, compete. They can get into into these close games, right? Which they have been in all year. So I'm never going to rule them out. It's always typically a boring game.
Yeah.
It's typically a boring game. But at the end of the day, they're usually in the ball game. So I think it could happen, but everything has to go right offensively.
Well, and we're starting to see things go right offensively, right? Yeah. We saw that in KC, despite the fact that they lost. They were down 27-0. They fought back, made it a competitive game. It was at least exciting and entertaining. Yeah. And then we saw that yesterday. They put up 24 points. If they can be in some of these games and give themselves a shot to win, if they get a bounce here or there, heck, the Texans had to go, the Chiefs had to go to overtime in order to beat the Texans yesterday, for crying out loud.
First of all, the Texans are playing people
tough,
though. They played the Cowboys tough.
Yes.
They played the Chiefs tough. So, they're terrible, but, they're a scrappy team, right? So, like you said, if the Texans can do it,
yes,
right, the Broncos should be able to do it as well.
Absolutely. And you're going to get a Rams team that's beat up. They're going to be coming off a short week because they play Monday night against Green Bay. I could easily see them going into LA and getting a win on Christmas Day. When we come back, as you can tell by the set, we are in the holiday spirit. We're going to hand out some holiday gifts, including some for George Payton, Nathaniel Hackett, and one for the entire Broncos organization. We'll tell you what we're getting the Broncos for the holidays next, right here on Upon Further Review of B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Welcome back to Upon Further Review of P. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. We are in the holiday spirit. We got our Santa hats on. How big was your helmet back in the day?
It was an XL. I had an XL helmet. I got a lot of head and a lot of hair. Even when I didn't have hair, I still had the extra large. So
it looks good, though. It looks good.
Blame my dad for that.
Okay, yeah. All right, so we're going to hand out some holiday gifts. And I'm going to go first, and I'm going to give George Payton a time machine so that he can go back and redo some of his decisions, right? The Russell Wilson contract, yeah, we're going to wait a little bit on that one. Hiring Nathaniel Hackett, yeah, I'm going to give him an opportunity to redo that as well. So George Payton gets a time machine for me for my 2022 holiday season.
That's a good gift, because it's funny because my hat is going crazy.
There we go.
Right now. It's not really fitting on my head, but it's all good. Hackett definitely needs a time machine.
Yeah.
Some of the trades, some of the picks he's had has not been, it's not panned out well. So he's fighting for his job as well, I think.
I think so too. I think so too. And we were talking earlier about, hey, what happens if the Broncos win out? George Payton really wants the Broncos to win out because that makes him look better because he's on the hook for Nathaniel Hackett. And I think that's part of the reason everybody's like, why don't they fire Hackett? Because he's George Payton's guy.
Yeah.
And if George Payton fires Nathaniel Hackett, he's admitting he made a mistake.
Right.
14 games in. You know what I mean? And so he wants Nathaniel Hackett to work out more than anybody because you're right. All of a sudden, if you fire the head coach, now everybody's pointing fingers at the GM saying, well, wait a minute, this is your responsibility too.
Did he hire? He was the one that hired Vic Fangio as well.
No.
That was the last regime.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is his first guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, look, he's probably sat him down a few times. Like, look, all right, we got to make this work for both of us.
And say what you want. I mean, you could go through the list of George Payton deals that don't look good right now.
Yeah.
But certainly the trade for Russell Wilson and hiring Nathaniel Hackett, the two biggest moves that he has made, have not panned out the way that he had. So that's why I'm gifting him the time machine.
And that's a good gift. I'm going to go ahead and give Nathaniel Hackett, a head coaching for dummies pamphlet. He needs a how-to manual because clearly it's not, I mean, he came in, it seemed like he came in underqualified, to be honest with you. Like the way that it's panned out, it seemed like he's been underqualified for this position. He admitted a couple of things that, I mean, it's been tough for me to juggle, a couple different hats, which a head coach has to juggle many hats. So, look, he's learning as we go, but, I mean, it's $1 billion industry. You can't learn as you go. I'm like, okay, well, you got a couple years. No, we got to get it right and get it together right now.
It's tough for me to juggle all of these hats, a.k.a. it's hard for me to do the job that I was hired to do, right? Exactly. I mean, and think about it. He's given up his play calling duties.
Right.
He's given up his game management duties.
Yeah.
What does he need a headset for?
What do we need him for?
Right? At this point, I mean, that's part of what I think will factor into the decision long term is like, what are we paying this guy to do?
Exactly.
Give hugs and be really cheery?
Apparently. He's almost like a politician now, shaking hands and waving. He's the face. But everybody else behind the scenes is doing all the work.
Yes.
I mean, it's tough to say because, we don't really know. We're not in that locker room. We're not in that building, so we don't necessarily know his impact. But we do know what he said. We do know how the team looks, right? And we do know the hires and the moves he's made to give up the play calling duties and hire consultants to help him out and stuff like that. So, that's what we do know.
Yeah. I'm also going to give the entire franchise a quick acting medical kit.
Okay.
Since they have so many guys on IR. This thing's really cool. It comes with quick release ACLs. Heal up just like that. Tim Patrick's going to be good to go.
Yeah.
Got a few shoulders in there as well. Got a few extra brains for the concussion situation. Fast acting medical kit I think would be good for this team as they head toward the end here of the 2022 season. Probably could have used that at the beginning of the year.
Absolutely, because we have the most money on IR, don't we?
Yes, the most players, the most money.
That's part of the reason that we're 4-10.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to sit here and make excuses. The play has been bad.
Yeah.
The injuries absolutely have something to do with that.
Absolutely, it's killed us.
Yeah.
It's killed us. But, it's still, right? Still. So I guess the question is, right? We talk about will he keep his job? Do you let him keep his job anyway and cite that we're gonna let him keep his job because of all the injuries?
No, because even then it still hasn't been good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like if you're doing that, you're just looking for excuses. You're grasping at straws. and you're looking for a reason to keep him. And maybe George Paton will do that because, again, this falls on George Paton. But I think that if you're looking at this realistically, the product that Nathaniel Hackett has put on the field every single week has not been good enough.
Yeah.
Period, end of story. Do the injuries factor into that? Yes. Are they the overwhelming factor? No. He has made some seriously boneheaded decisions. That's why this team is sitting here at 4-10.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Walmarts are going to just sit there and let this ride for another season.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
18,000 no-shows yesterday.
18,000.
18,000.
Because in my time,
it was like 18,400.
That doesn't happen.
Right.
You know, you might have a few hundred.
Right.
Maybe 1,000.
Yeah.
But
and it was a beautiful day. It's not like they could blame the weather, but I think people looked at it and said, it's a beautiful day. Why would I want to pay and go watch this football team?
Right. And this city loves the Broncos.
Yes.
The town loves Denver.
Yes.
Right. So to have that.
It's the holidays. I'm going to keep my money.
People would rather stay at home.
Yeah.
Than watch.
That, I think, is going to be
absolutely
the determining factor. I'll be interested to see what happens 3 weeks from now, in that Chargers game at the end of the year. If the Broncos don't, maybe they win in L.A., get blown out by the Chiefs at Arrowhead, and then what happens in that Chargers game? How many no-shows do they get for that?
Russell Wilson versus Baker Mayfield, huh?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, coming up this week. You got any other gifts you want to hand out, or are you good?
I'm good on the gifts.
All right.
Man.
All right. Then let's jump into our report card. Today's report card brought to you by Colorado Lottery. Play CBS Sport, pick the score for your chance to win $1,000 in scratch tickets. Enter at cbscolorado.com/contest. Professor Marshall, who are you handing out a grade to today?
Man, I'm gonna give a grade to my old friend. Man, he's been consistent for years, right? When they first decided to release T.J. Ward in training camp, the locker room just went crazy for that. We were shocked. We were all upset, but we saw the future, right? I mean, we didn't see it. The front office did, right? So Justin Simmons has been stellar, right? He's been fantastic for years, right? So he just had 2 interceptions yesterday. He gets an A. He's a ball hawk. It's like he got stickum on his gloves. Every time he gets around the ball, the way he catches it is crazy, right? He's almost could have been a receiver in another lifetime, right? So I'm giving Justin Simmons an A. And he's definitely one of the best safeties in the league. Top 3 for sure.
And I tell you what, it's good for the Broncos that Justin is the type of guy that he is because he's the only one who has been through all of this, dating back to 2016, the year after the Super Bowl. And for him to continue to play the way that he is playing, I don't think anybody would have blamed him if he was upset, if he had requested a trade. I think that what he does on a week-in, week-out basis in terms of showing up and playing and the way that he plays is absolutely commendable because it could easily go the other way.
And he's a stand-up guy, though.
Yeah.
Even off the field, he's a champion in the community, right? He's a champion family man. And the way he conducts himself, his personality, he's very cool, very humble. He's just a hard worker, man. He's somebody that you want. I mean, he embodies the almost the perfect player because he's fantastic on the field, right? Gets interceptions, makes great plays, but then off the field in the community, in the locker room, he's a leader. He's a champion in all aspects. So look, man, my hat's off to him. So like you said, like you alluded to, they are lucky that he is the type of guy he is and not a guy that can request a trade.
Broncos got a good one in him for sure. I'm going to hand out an A to Latavius Murray after 130 yards. He absolutely deserves an A in my opinion. Got into the end zone as well. Crazy to think that it took till 15 weeks into the season for the Broncos to have a 100-yard rusher this year. But Latavius Murray, you want to talk about moves that George Paton has made, that's one that has paid dividends because he has come in and I think he's been their best offensive weapon this season. I mean, we talked about Jerry Jeudy earlier and obviously, kind of what he has been able to do, but Latavius Murray has been consistent. He has been reliable, and he has been a guy who has just kind of continued to come in and run really hard. Doesn't matter who's in front of him. Doesn't matter who's blocking for him. You give the ball to Latavius Murray. Number 1, he holds on to it. Number 2, good things usually happen. So Latavius Murray gets an A from me.
Amen. Hey, you said when he holds on to it. He definitely, that's the most important thing.
Right?
Because we had a guy who couldn't hold on to the ball, and unfortunately, and that's a career killer.
Yes.
And and he did get an opportunity. He's on the practice squad, so I'm glad for him. But, Latavius came in and just outshined him. It wasn't even really close, to be honest with you.
No, it really
wasn't close at all.
Do you think Andy Reid draws up a couple plays for Melvin Gordon on New Year's Day.
Uh,
Chiefs,
yeah.
Broncos, at Arrowhead.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
the Chiefs are probably still playing for that 1 seed.
Yeah. I mean, if they elevate them, you know, because
Right.
they got Pacheco, they got, you know,
McKinnon, yeah.
you know, that's been playing well. I'm not sure what about Clyde. Is he still, you know?
Yeah, I don't know what the
But
situation
that would
is
be
there,
crazy if he elevated them.
But like Andy loves rubbing it in the face of the Broncos, right?
Absolutely.
Was it Dontari Poe
Yeah.
with the touchdown pass?
I was pissed off at that, actually.
I can see your face get upset when
Right now, you know what I'm saying?
That was disrespectful.
The disrespect was real, and I get it. It's a rival. It's a rival. So I'm not mad because you know the shoes on the underfoot. I would do the same thing. But to be on the losing side of that, right? The butt of the joke of the Dontari Poe. He threw the ball or what?
Yeah, and they gave it to him out of the backfield, and then he did a little jump pass.
That's when you know. Okay, they
They
doing
were just
stuff.
rubbing it in.
They just go. They went to the back of the playbook and said, "All right, we're just going to do this because they can't stop us anyway."
Yeah.
And we couldn't.
Yeah. I remember that post-game locker room. It was
was
not
sick.
fun.
It
Von
was
Miller
sick.
had some words for me as I was trying to navigate around his locker that I can't repeat on this podcast. Anyway, when we come back, we will zoom around the league. We'll ditch the hats. We'll zoom around the league, tell you what stood out to us around the NFL in Week 15, and get you set for some underdog fantasy football, including a big win by one of us in Week 14. That more coming up next right here on Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Travel consideration is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Back inside Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. It is time now for us to zoom around the league. Zoom Around the League is brought to you by ZoomCare. Visit ZoomCare.com to learn more about their Beyond Better urgent and primary healthcare clinics in Denver and in Boulder. B. Marsh, what the heck happened at the end of that Raiders-Patriots game yesterday? That was absolutely wild. Ramondre Stevenson, like, what are you doing?
Look, when I saw that play, first of all, I was shocked, obviously, as everybody else was, but I'm blaming Ramondre because he's the first one to throw it.
He started it.
He started it, right? So he let, it was Jacoby Myers, he led him to believe that this was a good idea, okay?
It was like everybody went brain dead all at the same time.
He was a bad influence on that play. The game is tied, all right? Just go ahead and play for overtime.
Yeah.
You could still win the ball game, but he threw it back to Jacoby, and then Jacoby decides that he wants to throw it back 20, 30 yards to Mack, which is nuts.
Wild.
Oh, I can't believe it. But,
and I'm sure, like, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm sure Mack's not expecting it.
yeah.
Because if you're in that situation, I would assume Mack knows, okay, it's 24-24, we're just going to get into overtime. Not a big deal. Whoa, why is this ball coming toward me? You know, and then there's Chandler Jones who picks it off. And Chandler Jones, to me, looks like a guy who said, I am so tired of all these roughing the passer penalties. I have the ball. I can do whatever I want to this quarterback. I'm going to shove his face right into the dirt as I run into the end zone.
He did what he's supposed to do. Okay?
Yeah.
He stiffed him right to the dirt, man. I honestly feel like Ramondre has always wanted to do that. You know, that's probably been his dream. He probably watched that and was like, yo, I'm gonna make something happen. This is my time to shine. I'm gonna be the guy, the catalyst to get us, you know, to make some crazy play to win the football game, which was.
And how many times have we seen that not work? Right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to the Music City Miracle and the Titans, like that was the one that kind of stands out. And there obviously have been other ones, but that play hardly ever works. And you're just, oh, it's 24-24, you're going to go to overtime.
Yeah.
Some of us picked the Patriots to win the game. And so, like, that was really mind-boggling. And you know that Bill Belichick is just so upset.
Oh yeah. He's boiling.
That was wild. There was a couple different walk-offs on Sunday. Go back to Saturday. Poor Matt Ryan. Like, this dude, 28-3 in the Super Bowl was bad enough as a blown lead, and then you blow 33-0 against the Vikings and set the record for the biggest blown lead in NFL history.
He just can't catch a break.
No.
You know, he's been benched. He's played bad. He's, you know, now this comeback. I mean, Matt Ryan is definitely on the tail end of his career, if not the very end.
Yeah.
It's bad. First of all, that was a terrible. I mean, come on, it's the NFL.
Yes.
This is not college or
Right.
high school, right?
Right.
So to have a team come back from 33 down and come back and beat you, it's no words for it, to be honest with you. It's disgusting. It's going to leave a terrible taste in their mouth for years, not even days, not weeks, for years to come, to know that, we was a team that blew a 33-point lead. I was a quarterback.
The first team ever to blow a 33-point lead.
Yeah.
That was wild. Blown leads the story of the weekend. Tom Brady up 17-0. First time in his career he's ever blown a 17-point lead. And then how about the Cowboys and the Jags?
Hey, man, look, the Jags, okay, they look decent.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence is actually starting to come into his own. Finally, I think it's year 3 for him, right? He's finally starting to come to his own. He has a good coach. He has some decent weapons around him. I see that swagger that he had at Clemson, right? He looks confident. So, for him to 4 touchdowns, against that Dallas defense that's supposed to be one of the best in the league, right? They put up 40 on Dallas' defense. Now, I know the last one was a pick 6, right? So, shout out to the defense, for helping out in overtime. But they look great.
Yeah.
They look, great is a stretch, but they
look good.
They look good.
Yeah.
They look good, right? So, especially beating a team like Dallas of that caliber.
Yeah, and especially when Dallas was up and it looked like Dallas was going to head to an easy victory in that one. Speaking of easy victories, let's jump into our Underdog Fantasy from last week. Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Now, our producer extraordinaire, Kevin Harper, who puts this show together for us, told me last week, he said, hey, man, if you keep struggling like this, I'm going to have to bring Romy back in here to do some Underdog Fantasy for you. I responded in a big way. What's that? 87 to 33.6.
My guys didn't show up.
No.
That's all I know.
No, they didn't.
They didn't show up. Everybody's on the block, chopping block.
So we've got 2 games this week that we're picking from. We've got Green Bay and the LA Rams, Jacksonville at New York Jets. That is the Thursday night game. So a little Monday night, Thursday night matchup on your Underdog Fantasy app. B-Marsh, because you took that bad beating last week, I wanted to give you the opportunity to go first this week. So who you got?
I got to take somebody with a high usage rate. Aaron Jones, give him the ball, they throw it to him, they hand it off to him, so hopefully he gets me some good points.
No doubt about that. That was the no-brainer number 1 pick. I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. I got my eyes on the Thursday night game. We were just talking about Jacksonville. I like Travis Etienne, and then I'm going to go Garrett Wilson on the other side of that matchup with the Jets receiver as my number 2 pick.
Hey, Garrett Wilson's been playing well.
Yes, he has. Zach Wilson, don't ruin it for me.
Yeah, I hope he does. So my next 2, man, I'm going to go ahead and go with, Zonovan Knight, let's hope he gives me some points, right? 'Cause I got to make a comeback. And Christian Watson. Christian Watson has been a big play waiting to happen. He scored, touchdowns maybe the last few games. I want to say he leads all, rookie receivers. So, hopefully, he does well again. So I'm hoping, Christian, if you're watching this, please, okay, come on, I need this win.
I know Broncos country is going to be keeping an eye on what happens tonight on Monday Night Football, given the fact that the Rams are playing and then, of course, have a short turnaround and host the Broncos on Christmas Day. I'm going to take Cam Akers in that game. I like Cam Akers has had a crazy year. I mean, it looked like he was done, and now he's become one of their primary weapons, if not the primary weapon, out in L.A. for the Rams. So give me Cam Akers, and then I'm going to go Christian Kirk. I really like Christian Kirk and always have. I like Christian Kirk as my final pick for this week's draft.
I'm a little nervous looking at these rosters, but you know what? At the end of the day, you know what? I'm just going to I'm going to leave it in God's hands.
Trust the process.
I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to go ahead and go with Evan Ingram. He's one of, Trevor Lawrence's best weapons, one of his favorite targets. So, it's a big body receiver that can run and do well. So, hopefully, he gets me a couple touchdowns.
He's having a good year, and you're talking about, obviously Trevor's having a great year, too. The weapons around him are doing really well. And credit to those guys in Jacksonville for kind of putting that team around their star quarterback, giving him some opportunities to kind of flourish. And obviously he's made the most of that. So here's the final breakdown for this week. Team B-Marsh, Aaron Jones, Zonovan Knight, Christian Watson, and Evan Ingram. Team Spencer, Travis Etienne, Garrett Wilson, Cam Akers, and Christian Kirk. Good luck, as always, buddy. Hey, that is going to do it for this week's edition of Upon Further Review, presented by Underdog Fantasy. For my partner, Brandon Marshall, for our producer extraordinaire, Kevin Harper, and all of us here at CBS News Colorado, I'm Michael Spencer. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. A reminder, next week, Broncos-Rams, Christmas afternoon, a 2:30 kickoff on CBS4 for those of you in the Denver viewing area. We will talk to you the next day right here on Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store.